We've all heard of cyber insurance, or at least most people have, but do you know what it's covering? Do you know if you have it? Do you know if you do have it, if you've got what you really need? Those are some serious questions that I'm gonna take the next 3 minutes to answer as best I can and give you a low down dirty guide of what you should be including in your cyber insurance policy. My name is Tiffanie.demasters. I am a commercial insurance agent. I focus on helping businesses understand their insurance coverage so that they don't wonder if they're covered, they know, and they feel that security in knowing. All right, cyber insurance, what is it really covering? Identifying and solving the breach, recovering the data, notifying the customers, PR costs, those could add up huge, legal expenses, potential fines assessed by compliance in the government, business income, extortion costs for ransomware, all of that, plus a few other things are all kind of combined into what we call cyber insurance. Do small businesses really need cyber? Absolutely. See it. Yes, you need cyber insurance. It's estimated that 43% of small businesses have been hit so far, and 65%, I think was the last stat I heard, that have experienced some form of data breach. So doesn't matter what size you are. You hear about the big ones because they make media attention. The small ones, it hurts. So you're probably wondering, doesn't my policy already cover cyber insurance? My guess is it probably doesn't. There are some riders you can add on a little bit of coverage, and that's better than nothing, and that's what I tell people. Start there if nothing else. But the best thing you can do to protect your business from cyber, which is the #1 threat now that everyone's working for remote and people are getting desperate, fraud is on the rise, 300-400%, like I've said, you've got to do it. A standalone policy with these comprehensive coverages is going to be the best way to go. So, what do those coverages look like? Down and dirty list. I'll try to keep it brief, and I'll try to explain them in words that make sense. Try. That's the key word there. All right, so your policy will have the main limit. That's the limit you'll hear. You'll hear $1 million, $250,000, just your main limit. All these other things can either be a combination of the main limit or sub-limits, depending. So you want to make sure the limit makes sense for your business. So on top of that, you'll have a separate line item for notification expenses, PCI fines. You need to make sure business income is included in there, and contingent business income is probably a good thing too. If you are relying on anybody else as a part of your business and they get breached, you want to make sure you've got coverage too. Then on top of that, we want to make sure that your waiting period and your deductible or your retention is enough to be affordable, but still makes sense cost-wise for your business. I also always recommend that people put cybercrime on there. This includes funds transfer fraud, social engineering coverage. So what do those look like? Social engineering is the biggest thing that we're seeing. It's kind of like similar to phishing. It's when somebody in the office is voluntarily tricked into releasing information. So you pretend to be somebody from the outside and tell me to wire money, and I do it. Obviously, I did it thinking that you were the person you said you were, and my motives were not intentionally bad. I just didn't maybe follow protocol. So social engineering coverage is going to cover that. Without that, no coverage. That's the most common exclusion you've seen, was with policies that don't have that coverage in there. Funds transfer fraud is very similar, only it's specifically only going to deal with that funds transfer. So if somebody is asked to change the wiring instructions on an email, and they do that and it goes out, so it wasn't the bank, didn't do it in error, so they're not responsible. You're responsible because you were the one who initiated that change. So you got to make sure that coverage is on there too. We want to make sure computer fraud is also covered. So that's if it's hacked. That's what you normally think of if things are damaged because of a hack. Bricking specifically is if the hardware is damaged because of an attack of some sort. That's important. It's they like to exclude physical damage to it, but the bricking gives that coverage back. And then of course we've got the PCI fines, the notification costs. All those can sometimes have levels of coverage, and you want to make sure that that's what you're looking at. So those things are all kind of what make up a cyber policy. It's a lot of terms, but you want to make sure you've got something that just goes down the list, that you're getting everything that you need. We have the capability to quote pretty much instantly with numerous different cyber carriers, and they put it in a chart and compare exactly all these different coverages that we're talking about, because as I've said numerous times, there is no standard form. So on top of comparing all the major coverages, then we kind of go into detail on comparing the exclusions. So what are some common exclusions that we need to be aware of? So they want to put exclusions on the policy that security has to be maintained on the system, whether that's encryption, two-factor authentication, whatever that looks like. If for some reason you fail to update your security system, your antivirus software, you don't have a two-factor authentication on something, they can deny coverage. So you want to be very clear on what that condition looks like on your policy, or have that removed, because that, human error is what's causing the majority of these cyber issues. On top of that, we want to make sure your laptops are covered. So anytime lost laptops lead to huge lawsuits, because all it takes is one lost laptop with some information on there to have a huge exposure. Along those same lines, your personal devices. So if I'm using my personal cell phone for business, which I do all day, every day, is that going to be covered under my business's cyber? It depends on the policy. I can tell you mine does, because I made sure of it. But there's so many that don't, and you got to make sure that if they are, they're following those same protocols, and the two-factor authentication or the virus software being up to date on phones. And the breaches on phones are so different than they are on computers. This is just harder to track. I saw somewhere that they found those prepaid cell phones. I don't know what brand, or I'm not defaming anyone, but they had 20,000 cases of pre-installed malware on these phones when they bought them. So it's there, it's real. So what have we seen happen? There was a large regional jewelry store, didn't properly exit out an employee after they were terminated, and didn't cancel all their credentials. That person hacked into the system, sold customer information on the dark web, causing huge amounts of fraudulent charges on behalf of these customers. So as soon as they realized the breach, they called their insurance carrier and got in touch with the breach coach. The PR team kicked in. They minimized the loss as far as your goodwill towards your customers. They put the notification and monitoring out there. They were able to figure out exactly what happened, restore the data, secure it, and prosecute the person who did it. So that all said and done was over $83,000 in expenses. Without the cyber policy, they would have been out that much money, or they could have lost even more. We know through the cyber claims, the faster you can get on the phone with the breach coach and get through it and get it resolved, the less expensive it's going to be, the less widespread the loss is going to be. Tons of information in a short amount of time, I get it. Trying to just put the word out there, raise awareness, but what I want to make sure I get across is that you need a cyber policy. At least take the time to understand what your risks are, talk through them with an agent, so you can look at all different kinds of levels, all different kinds of coverages, and that way you know that your business is protected the way you want. Hope it kept your attention at least somewhat. I know it's a technical, complicated subject, but having the conversation, raising awareness, that's what I'm doing. And if I can help in any way, please reach out. My LinkedIn profile says I'm a commercial insurance nerd. Pretty sure this video just proved it, but I'd love to talk through your cyber insurance options with you. Thanks.